Hi everyone, I'm Kim Droege, your host, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim. We're so glad you joined us here today on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. And go check out my Connecting with Kim Facebook and Instagram pages for additional information about the show. And you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM in Sun City Center and on your favorite streaming platform. So again, thanks for joining us today. We have another great episode coming up. But before we start, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who through the Spring Boutique located at Swann and Henderson here in Tampa provides my on-air wardrobe, which includes my clothes, my jewels, anything that I wear, and that you can find at the boutique. And please patronize the thrift store and the boutique, because the net proceeds from those organizations goes to support the mission of the Spring of Tampa Bay, which is providing sanctuary and services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. They do a great job. They've been at it for years. They're the best at what they do. Please support them. You will make me happy. So I am so excited. We really love when we have first-timers because they always want to come back. I'd like to introduce you to my guest. His name is Mr. Luis Viera, and he is the District 7 Tampa City Councilman. Welcome to Connecting with Kim.
Thank you for having me, Kim. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
So we met at when I got back from the Black Business Bus Tour in the fall, and we were in the staging area where there were lots of vendors and whatnot. And then our friend Michael Owen introduced us. And you and I started talking, and I thought, you need to come on Connecting with Kim.
And I'm thankful to now Commissioner Owen for that, and glad to have made the connection, especially at that venue. And the great work that Candy Lowe and Jarvis and others in that effort do is just really commendable.
Absolutely. I have enjoyed every single tour that I have been privileged to attend. But I want to start out our interview because it's going to air before the election. I want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
You got to be the luckiest guy in the world because you are already reelected. You do not have to campaign. You were not challenged, and you are the only sitting councilman that wasn't challenged.
Yeah, and you know, I take it as an achievement, especially in this political environment, which we can talk about, which, you know, there's a lot of acute things right now in the city of Tampa. I've always seen myself, even before this second full term, as sort of a bridge builder between people on different sides, including political parties, et cetera. I've seen it as my job to represent everybody, Republicans, Democrats, independents, people who voted for me, people who voted against me with passion, whoever. You got to reach out and build bridges. Otherwise, in my opinion, you're not doing your job as an elected official.
Absolutely. Well, we always start out Connecting with Kim, offering our guests the same opportunity, which is to take a few minutes, and you can take as long as you want, to share your life's journey as much as you want to share with the folks out there, because you know, I know you and other people know you, but they might not know you. So why don't you take a few minutes and tell us all about it?
Yeah, well, you know, I originally from Temple Terrace. My parents are originally from Cuba. We left Cuba in 1960. My mom was 11. My father was 16 years old. They left in 1960, shortly after Fidel Castro rose to power. So we fled as political refugees, much like people today are refugees, maybe from Syria or Afghanistan or Ukraine or Venezuela, from Cuba, et cetera, in 1960, fleeing the communist regime there. My parents would live some time on separate sides in Miami and Puerto Rico. And before that, we also lived in Tampa before Castro. It's a long story. The relationship with Cubans in Tampa has been long. For 120 years of people coming back and forth between our two countries and whatnot. I grew up in Temple Terrace, went to Florida College Academy when I was a little kid, a Church of Christ school. Temple Heights, a Baptist school, would go to University of South Florida, graduate in 2000, graduate from Stetson Law School in 2003, would pass the Florida bar about 15 years later. Just kidding. Thank God I passed it that year. Thank God Almighty. It's funny I say that because they keep on raising the standards for the Florida bar.
I know they do.
And I tell lawyers today, with my score, I don't know if I would have passed today, so I say that as a joke. But I've been practicing law for about 19 years, and I decided to run for Tampa City Council in 2016. It was a special election for the remainder of Lisa Monteleone's term. She had left to run for State House, and I ran on issues that I'm passionate about. I always say, I was just talking to an elected yesterday, and I said, listen, when you're in this chair as an elected official, you got to talk about the issues that you're passionate about, because it's not easy being an elected official. And if you're not doing it for the right reasons, for the issues that you're passionate about, then God help you, you're going to be miserable. So, back then I talked about apprenticeships. I talked about people like my oldest brother who are developmentally disabled. I talked about our firefighters, our police officers. I talked about issues that I care about involving transportation, first responders, public safety, things that I'm passionate about that still define me as today. So that's kind of me for now. I'm married. My wonderful wife, Colleen O'Brien, is an attorney, a wonderful woman and a great attorney. I have a son, Louis, who's 15 years old and is just the greatest guy on earth. And I'm very privileged to live close here with a lot of my family. We're very stereotypical Hispanics, that we all live very close to one another, and that's a blessing.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's how I grew up.
Amen.
Yeah.
My mom has a saying which is, "Eso es como Dios manda." That's how God commands. It sounds better in Spanish, less punitive. But in other words, that's the way things ought to be, and I believe that.
Well, that's the way I grew up. We all lived within 20 minutes of each other.
Yes,
in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we spent almost every Sunday that I can remember at my grandmother's house having dinner as a family and spending time together. And I mean, I miss those days. I really, really do.
Sure.
So I think that's fantastic. So congratulations for that, and congratulations again on not having to. We don't get political on Connecting with Kim.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. There are plenty of other places to go to get political. But I will say, as an interested observer of the process, that I think the very fact that every single city councilman except yourself, and congratulations on that, got challenged, I think is sending a message loud and clear to the existing city council, as well as the mayor, that people are not happy. They are dissatisfied. They are restless. They don't like seeing what they've been seeing. And somebody needs to understand that there's been just too much drama.
Yep. And I would agree with that assessment overall. I think that people who pay attention especially are very outraged at what's been going on, which is a lack of respect. And again, I'm not going to get into who's at fault and all this stuff.
Yeah, we don't need to discuss
and I've discussed that before, and what I'm not going to get into that. But I try not to get into that. But is a lack of collegiality, a lack of respect, etc. We need to get back to that. And I think that all 7 of us who are on Tampa City Council are fully capable of it. Every person on Tampa City Council brings something unique to the table. All of us have different passions on different issues. All of us are equipped in different things. It's kind of like, it's funny, I was saying I went to Christian schools. I remember the New Testament talks about the different parts of the body of Christ, of the church. It's kind of like that in a governing body, which is everybody has a different role to play, and everybody's passionate about that role, right? And so I think we all have something to bring to the table in Tampa City Council, and certainly with the mayor. So, my message to people is, and I said it last week, is that we need to de-escalate. Just last week, and this is political, but I voted to override some of the mayor's vetoes on things. And I said, look, I'm disagreeing with the mayor, but I'm doing it in an agreeable way. I'm being respectful, right? Et cetera, and I'm not trying to score what I view as political points on it, right? And again, people are passionate, and I totally respect that, and people have a right to do that. But I think that people should also be respectful on both sides.
Absolutely.
And that's the message.
I will not disagree with that at all. Nothing is I'm on the opposite side of the political aisle than you, but as I've said to everyone that I know and work with, you are not going to get anything done at the fringes. You are only going to get things done at the center.
Oh, yeah.
You could be passionate about whatever it is you're passionate about, but somehow, some way, you have got to come to a compromise that is workable for the greatest number of people, right?
Amen.
Not everyone is ever going to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And so, I think you guys, I think that'll be interesting. I mean, when you have this many people running, what's going to end up happening is, it's going to be an interesting campaign season, but secondly, it's going to be runoffs.
Oh, yeah. And
there's no way anybody's going to get 50%, I don't think.
And you've got a lot of people on city council who are very passionate, very sincere about what they believe in. Again, everybody brings something. All 7 of us bring something really, really positive. All of us, Councilman Orlando Goods, Councilman Carlson, Councilman Citro, myself, Councilwoman Hertak, Councilman Miranda and Councilman Maniscalco. Everybody brings something really positive to the table, and we should stress that positive. But you're right in terms of that if you want to get anything done in politics, I don't necessarily say the middle, I say the mainstream,
right,
which is, traditional Republicans who are conservative can work with traditional Democrats who are moderate to liberal, right? We can still do that in this country. That's where the people are. It's just that we've allowed ourselves to get governed by the fringes. And if you see the last few years, whether it's on the hard right, the whole post-election stuff, stop the steal, on the hard left, the defund the police stuff, voters don't like that.
No.
And I tell people something that would have been politically obscene 10 years ago is mainstream today. Let's de-escalate nationally. Let's lower the temperature. Let's get back to normalcy. That's my message.
Well, let's talk about District 7, and let's talk about what your constituents are interested in and passionate about, and then what the things that you're passionate about.
Sure. Well, District 7 is a really interesting district.
It is. It's an odd configuration.
So it includes North Tampa, which includes areas like Bush Boulevard, Terrace Park, Forest Hills, Copeland Park, University area, et cetera. A lot of areas. Some areas are working class, lower income. Some areas are what I call the middle of the middle class. Forest Hills is truly that, in whether it's along the golf course or different areas along Linebaugh. Then you have New Tampa, which I call lovingly the Alaska of the city of Tampa, because it's so far out. It was annexed 30 so years ago, right? 35 years ago. And you have a lot of people there that are newcomers. A lot of the people that you see who have changed Florida politics, moving from areas like New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, a lot of them have moved to New Tampa, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of them have.
Yeah.
And so I really love representing my district. I live in Hunters Green. I grew up in Temple Terrace, then moved to New Tampa. After that, I lived for 1 year on West Shore when I was in law school. But it's a real pleasure. And the thing I love about my district is that I know them, and I build bridges. I know people that strongly support me. They walk door to door for my campaign, and I'm the only Democrat they'll ever vote for. They tell me that. I take that as a sign of pride. I really do, because you got to build bridges in this time. And another thing I really love about my district is that it's very diverse religiously. The heart of America lies with religious liberty and with our religious pluralism. And I just say, if you go down Cross Creek to Morris Bridge Road, outside of the city but within New Tampa, you have a Roman Catholic church, St. Mark's. You have a Baptist church, an evangelical Protestant church. You have an Islamic mosque. You have a Sikh temple. Very near that, just outside or near Temple Terrace, you have a Hindu temple. And you go a little further in Tampa Palms, now we have an Orthodox Jewish synagogue. So we have the diversity of America there.
Yeah. I mean, that is a real cross-section.
Yes,
that is like America right in one little geographic area.
It is.
That's wonderful. And you also extend down. I mean, I was looking at you kind of extend down towards Tampa, too. I mean, I'm looking at your district.
Oh, yeah,
It's a very odd shape, but I mean, I was looking at the whole thing.
Yep. And it's funny because, I fight hard for my district, and I've gotten things. We've gotten 2 new fire stations for our area since I've been elected there. An All Abilities Park, something very important to me because of my brother. The expansion of the rec center in New Tampa, expansion of the rec center in Forest Hills, a lot of things. But I also see on a lot of the things I do representing all of the city of Tampa, the apprenticeship ordinance, returning citizens, things for the mentally disabled. You've also got to have a citywide vision, but also fight for your constituents, because a lot of times they're not adequately represented on city council in your area.
Right.
You find that a lot.
Right. So what do you think what are your constituents passionate about? What do you think are the issues facing not only your district but the city of Tampa that you need to focus on whenever you have a new sitting council? So
that's a great question. I think the number one issue that affects New and North Tampa, that also affects all of the city, is population growth. A lot of people are moving here. Thank God for that. We have about 150 people moving every day into our area. That's a big deal. But we have to make infrastructure and public safety amenities for that. You take a look at New Tampa, 33647, had about 8,000 people about 35 years ago. Today it's about 55 to 60,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's
that's explosive.
Yeah, and you look south of Gandy, they have the same problem. So I think the biggest cry in New and North Tampa is build fine, but have corresponding amenities for that, for recreation, for transportation. We're so woefully behind. And most importantly, for the number one issue, which is for local government, which is public safety. Response times, police, fire, et cetera, a really important thing.
Well, public safety, I think, has become a forefront issue, particularly in the last year.
Yes.
If you're just joining me now and connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is Luis Viera, who is the Tampa City Councilman for District 7. And he is not facing, well, he was already reelected, so he is not facing an arduous campaign for reelection, as some other Tampa City Council men are and women are facing. So public safety.
Oh, yeah.
Because as you and I were talking about before, I live in South County, and if you want to go north,
Yep.
now I don't care where you want to go north. If you want to go north to Tampa, or you want to go north, if you have one problem on 301 or 75 or 41, you could forget it.
Oh, sure.
You're not going anywhere because there is no, and I look around me, when I'm driving, and it's all filled with people people like me in their own cars.
Yes. And so, public safety is issue number one. I proposed 3 years ago what I call a public safety master plan. We look at all of our city of Tampa. We see where our deficits are for police and fire. And we build on that plan by creating a map fiscally to remedy those deficits. There's fire and there are police, really unique issues. Fire, we're falling behind in New and North Tampa. We're falling behind in downtown Tampa.
Yeah.
We have one fire station in spite of all the growth we've seen in downtown Tampa. West Tampa, a lot of workforce housing. South of Gandy and South Tampa, East Tampa, Sulphur Springs, all over. Police is a separate, unique issue. We've had a lot of challenges there politically over the last few years in the city of Tampa. I was always, I always tell people there's a saying, I'm the same man on Sunday morning as I am on Saturday night, right? And when the issue of defund the police came up early on, I repudiated that. For me, I've always been a supporter of the police, just the way it is. But we can have things like body cameras, implicit bias training, mental health professionals, et cetera, et cetera. I'm all for that. We're a city that supports law enforcement, and that's why I think the public safety master plan makes so much sense for police and fire, because we want to know where our deficits are, because we know that public safety is issue number one.
Well, I've had Chris Bowles, who is the part of the Hillsborough County Firefighters Local 2294 union, and we covered a lot of topics, and I've been to his presentations and about how many fire stations we are in deficit right now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not even, that just brings up to the existing population. It has nothing to do with the growth that's happening.
Amen.
So you're right, and I think, from my perspective, I think today we expect an awful lot out of a police officer, a sheriff, deputy, or a police officer. Not only do they have to enforce the law, but now they have to recognize mental illness. They have to be able to counsel. They have to be, it's a lot to expect them to do in when you're having an encounter.
Yep, it is, and
something serious is happening.
Oh yeah, and they carry a burden on them, knowing number one, they're going to be videotaped. Strongly support that, but it's a very high burden. And at the very least, we ought to do as a city is support them by encouraging them, support them by giving them the tools that they need to succeed, support them by a pay raise. We voted for an 18.5% 3-year pay raise for our city employees, including police and fire, and support them with life coping tools, because what they go through every day, what they see, first off, the physical journey, I couldn't take it. A couple of years ago, I went with Councilman Goods and Councilman Citro to a Tampa Fire training for elected officials. I lasted, I think there were like 6 exercises. I lasted through like the 4th, and I was out. I was like, guys,
you're down for the count.
Turn out the lights, the party's over. I'm like, this ain't happening. My wife did very well. She's from a family of first responders, God bless her. And of course, Councilman Goods, a former cop, et cetera. But, it's a very difficult journey for them, and we got to make sure to have their backs on that. That's the issue in local government, one of the issues I'm most passionate about.
I know that having looked at your bio that you have been the recipient of numerous awards, and you've also been on many different, I'll call them commissions, or worked with different organizations. I think you ought to talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it's a good question. So a number of things, I help with some friends of mine organization. We got together as lawyers for Lawyers Autism Awareness Foundation for now, 12 years. We do a sensory-friendly Santa event for kids with autism and disabilities. Judges Rex Barbas, who's a great guy, love him to death, and Judge Nick Nazaritan, a fine public servant, play our Santa, and we've been doing that for 12 years. And again, I literally grew up with a mentally disabled. My oldest brother, Juan, is 52 years old. He lives half the week in Brandon at New Horizons Group Home near First Baptist Church of Brandon, half the week with my mom. That for me is like what I'm it's in my bones.
Yeah,
That's
hitting
where
home.
I'm from.
It's right there.
That's eso es mi
Yeah.
corazón y mi sangre. So I speak Spanish because I get so passionate. But
That's okay. We can handle it.
There you go. But you know, that's a really, really big issue. So other things I've been involved with, the Tampa Hispanic Bar Association. I was incoming president. I know so many great friends there. And then I got elected. I couldn't be president, but always served under a board, et cetera. A member of a lot of bar associations, George Edgecombe, Hillsborough County Bar. I was the chair of the diversity committee for the Hillsborough County Bar Association, on the board of Tampa Bay Best Buddies. This is all before I got elected. And that's, by the way, that's what I tell people with running for office, which is when you run for office, it should be a continuation of the things you're doing in the private sector or in the public sector, whatever it may be, which is that you have a heart on issues that you're sincere about, right? The public doesn't want career politicians. The public doesn't want people who want to be in the spotlight. The public wants people, whether whatever party they're from, that are going to be sincere servants. And I think that's what people always want.
Well, and I think that sincerity, if you're a public servant for the wrong reasons, eventually they will find you out.
Sure.
It will come across in everything that you do. It will come across in your body language, in the things that you say, and they will eventually figure it out.
Sure.
The public will say, you know, we want somebody who's truly committed. And being a public servant, I congratulate you because, and I applaud you because being a public servant is not easy these days.
No, it's not. I mean, you have to have thick skin, number one. And I've had, you know, believe it or not, tagged on some stuff or get called stuff that I'm like, man, that hurt. Come on, man, come on, you know, and whatnot. And you have to have thick skin. You got to be able to work with people you disagree with. The line that I use is, you have to see the good in people in spite of your mainstream political differences. That's so important these days, and especially the tide, again, that we see in national politics and state and local, which is for more acute division, for escalating things, increasing the temperature. I always said my job in politics is to get the temperature back down to 92. 92 is pretty hot, but you can live in 92. It's 106. That ain't normal. And that's what I kind of see as my job, which is, look, you can be a good Republican. You can be a good Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. I used to be vice president of the college Democrats at USF. I'm a Democrat, but I work with Republicans. I see the good in Republicans, et cetera, and I'll work with just about anybody to help out my constituents. That's my message.
Well, and I'm happy to see as an observer of the process. Again, as we talked about before we went on the air, I cannot vote in Tampa City elections, so I have no axe to grind and I have no dog in this fight. I know a lot of those people, but that's not the same thing. And I am, you know, as an observer, I'm happy to see that there are some Republicans who are coming out this year to run for Tampa City Council, because there's a general feeling that you cannot be elected to Tampa City Council if you're not a Democrat.
Sure.
And so that's also rewarding. But I agree with you. The temperature is way too high, and although I've always believed politics is a contact sport, so if you're afraid, you're never going to make
Amen.
it. You got to be able to, you know, like you said, you have to have a thick skin, and
Yep.
unfortunately, even thicker these days because the civility has gone completely out the window.
Amen. And it's funny because I come from the world of being an attorney. I remember one day when I had to go to some political event before I had a hearing in court, and I was like, what a difference an hour makes, which is 1 minute you're in court where it's collegiality, civility, et cetera, and then next minute you're in a very different forum. That's where I come from. And I just, again, I come from that view. That doesn't mean that you can't fight for your principles. I fight for things. I fought for things. I've been the sole vote in City Council. I remember when we did the giving $25 million from the CRA to the Strat Center. I was the only vote against that. Again, standing on my principles. When we passed the apprenticeship ordinance, dealt with a lot of people, including friends of mine who I love dearly, who opposed it. Yes, stand on principle on a lot of different things. When I fought for the lynching marker, a lot of different things, people opposed that. And I go, listen, let's discuss it. But again, you're never going to find me, most of the time, being a jerk. Nobody's perfect, right?
Well, we're down to under 5 minutes in the show, and I always like to give my guests an opportunity to look into their camera and to address if they're a nonprofit, to ask whatever they want to.
Yeah.
In your case, to address your constituents or the residents of Tampa with any message that you want to send to them, because again, you have the luxury of already being elected.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. I'll take the advantage of give the opportunity. You know, what I would say is, whether it's in the March election, whether it's in a runoff, whether it's in the November elections in 2024, my message to people is always a very heartfelt, passionate one, which is really non-ideological, but it is political, which is that, again, think back to a lot of the things that we talk about today and ask yourself, would they have been normal 10 years ago? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that we've been, pushing the boundaries on a lot of different issues, et cetera, that have become normalized in terms of how we treat one another, in terms of collegiality, a lack of respect, et cetera, and frankly, giving into a lot of extremes that would not have been acceptable 10 years ago. So my message to people is to see the good in one another again. Be that person that builds bridges. If you happen to be a Republican leader or a Democratic leader, talk to people on the other side, right? Have dialogue. There's nothing wrong with that. See how other people think so that you can maybe see life through their eyes, and you'll go, hey, listen, maybe they got a point. They may be wrong, but they got a point, right? And again, what I always say is see the good in people in spite of our mainstream political differences. I say mainstream because there's some people out of the mainstream, right? But see the good in one another in spite of our mainstream political differences. That's my message to the public today, and it'll always be my message, because in politics, you can't get enough of respect. That's what politics should be about, respect while fighting like hell, pardon my language, for your ideals. You got to fight like hell, but you got to be civil and respectful.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I want to thank you for being our guest today on Connecting with Kim. I'm thrilled to have you on. As I say all the time, anybody who's serving in politically elected office is welcome on Connecting with Kim. We like to have you on. We want to give you an opportunity. We have our show is a mix of folks from all different walks of life, and that's the way I like it. But thank you so much for being our guest on Connecting with Kim. I really, really appreciate you being here.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's about all we have time for today on the show. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to encourage you to come back next week. And I want to give another shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, whose mission is to provide sanctuary and services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. And I want you to frequent the thrift store on North Willow and the boutique at Swann and Henderson, because they have great stuff, number one. I'm the living proof. I'm wearing it every week. They have great stuff, and your proceeds will go to a very, very good cause. So again, you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM down at Sun City Center, and on stream. You can catch us anytime on watch.tbae.net. And you can go to my Facebook and YouTube, Instagram and Facebook pages and find out everything you need to know about the show. So thanks again. Come back next week.